Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to be cracking open a biology textbook.
Ah, fun.
Yeah, we're going to be diving headfirst into plants.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like a personalized classroom just for our listeners.
Yeah, no tests or anything.
Exactly. Just the cool stuff about plant biology.
I love it.
We'll be looking at all sorts of things like how plants grow, how they respond to their environment,
Oh, okay.
and even some pretty amazing ways scientists are using all this knowledge.
That's going to be really cool.
It is. Let's start with the basics. What exactly makes a plant a plant?
Well, unlike us humans who need to eat other organisms for energy,
Right.
plants are masters of self-sufficiency. They can create their own food just from sunlight, water, and air.
That's right. Photosynthesis.
Exactly.
Wait a minute. What about those carnivorous plants like Venus flytraps?
Oh, yeah.
They definitely snack on insects.
Good point. Carnivorous plants are an exception. They evolve these really intricate traps to capture insects. Yeah, and it lets them supplement their diet with nutrients that might be scarce in the environment.
So they're like hacking the system?
Yeah, exactly.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so plants can make their own food, but how do they keep growing their whole lives?
That's a great question. It's not like they stop growing at a certain size like animals do.
Right.
And the answer is meristem tissue. It's like the plant's secret to everlasting youth.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, meristems are these regions of unspecialized cells,
Yep.
and they can continuously divide and differentiate.
So they can basically turn into any type of plant cell.
Pretty much. It gives rise to all the different plant parts like roots, stems, leaves, everything.
So it's like having a built-in construction crew that's always working.
Exactly. And this is also what makes plant cloning possible.
Oh, cool.
You can take a cutting from a plant, and because of those meristem cells, it can actually develop into a whole new genetically identical plant.
So it's like hitting copy and paste on nature.
Exactly. It's amazing, isn't it?
That's mind-blowing. Now let's talk about plant hormones. I remember learning about them in school, but it was all a bit fuzzy back then.
Yeah, I get that. They can be a bit complicated.
So what exactly are they and what do they do?
Plant hormones are like these tiny chemical messengers that orchestrate the entire plant symphony.
Symphony.
Yeah, they control everything. Growth, development, responses to the environment, you name it.
So instead of a conductor with a baton, it's all about these chemical signals.
Precisely. You can imagine them as the puppet masters behind the scenes,
Okay.
pulling the strings, or rather sending out chemical cues to make the plant grow or flower or even defend itself.
Fascinating. Could you give me some specific examples? Like, what are some of these puppet masters at work?
Yeah. Let's talk about gibberellins for a second.
Okay.
These hormones are like the plant's growth spurt specialists,
Okay.
and they play a key role in stem elongation and seed germination.
So if you see a plant, like, shooting up like a beanstalk,
Right.
it's probably gibberellins doing their thing.
You got it. And here's a fun fact.
Okay.
Scientists actually discovered gibberellins by accident.
Really?
Yeah, they were studying a fungus that infected rice plants, and it caused them to grow abnormally tall.
Oh, wow.
And it turns out that this fungus was producing gibberellic acid,
Interesting.
which then led to this crazy growth spurt in the rice plant.
No, they kind of stumbled upon this important hormone.
Exactly. It just goes to show you that scientific discoveries can happen in unexpected ways.
I love that. So we've got the growth promoters like gibberellins.
Right.
But what about the brakes?
Oh, yeah.
Are there hormones that can, like, slow things down?
Absolutely. Abscisic acid, or ABA for short,
ABA, got it.
is one of the key players in inhibiting growth.
Okay.
It's like the plant's voice of reason, making sure it doesn't get too carried away.
Right.
ABA helps the plant conserve water during drought.
Oh, wow, that's important.
It is. It also prevents seeds from germinating too early.
So it makes sure everything happens at the right time.
Exactly. And it even promotes bud dormancy during the winter.
So it's like the plant's built-in safety mechanism.
Exactly. All about balance, you know,
Yep.
and ensuring the plant's survival in a changing environment.
So plant hormones are basically like the masterminds behind the scenes,
You could say that.
controlling everything.
Yeah.
But what about how plants respond to their surroundings? Like plants growing towards the light. How do they do that?
That's a great question. It leads us to the fascinating world of plant tropisms.
Plant tropisms.
Yeah, these are directional growth responses to external stimuli.
So like how the plant reacts to things in its environment.
Exactly. It's like they have this innate sense of their surroundings.
Wow.
And they can adjust their growth accordingly.
So they're not just sitting there passively, they're actively responding.
Absolutely. And one of the most well-known tropisms is phototropism,
Phototropism.
which is a plant's response to light. Have you ever noticed how your houseplants lean towards the window?
Oh, yeah, all the time. I actually have to rotate them.
Right.
So they don't become completely lopsided.
That's classic phototropism. What happens is the plant's stems grow towards the light source to capture as much sunlight as possible for photosynthesis.
It's like they have a built-in solar panel that they're trying to optimize.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
What other types of tropisms are out there?
Well, there's gravitropism,
Gravitropism.
which is how plants respond to gravity.
Right.
Roots grow downwards into the soil to anchor the plant
Makes sense.
and seek out water and nutrients, while the stems actually defy gravity and grow upwards towards the sun.
It's amazing how they know which way is up and down even when they're underground.
It really is. And then there's thermotropism.
Thigmotropism, what's that?
That's a plant's response to touch. Think of vines, for example, that wrap themselves around a trellis or a tree trunk.
Oh, right. So it's like they have a sense of touch.
Exactly.
That's incredible.
This ability to respond to touch is what allows those plants to climb and reach for support,
Makes sense.
maximizing their exposure to sunlight.
Wow, plants are so much more complex than I ever realized.
They really are. And we've only just scratched the surface.
I can't wait to learn more.
Me too.
Okay, so we've covered how plants make their own food, how they grow,
Yeah.
and even how they respond to light, gravity, and touch.
It's amazing, right?
It is. What other plant secrets are we uncovering today?
Well, remember how we were talking about those tropisms?
Yeah.
And specifically phototropism?
Right, how plants bend toward light.
Exactly. So scientists did some really cool experiments to figure out exactly how that works.
Oh, I love a good science experiment story. Tell me more.
Okay, so they used these oat seedlings for the experiment.
Okay.
And these seedlings have a protective sheath called a coleoptile that covers the shoot.
Okay.
And the scientists started by removing the tip of the coleoptile.
Oh, so they like decapitated the seedling?
Well, in a way, yeah.
Seems a little harsh.
But it was all in the name of science.
Okay, I get
So this tip is actually where a growth hormone called auxin is produced.
auxin.
Yeah. And they placed this coleoptile tip on a block of agar.
Agar. What's that?
It's like a gelatinous substance.
Okay.
And that allowed the auxin to diffuse into the agar?
So they basically made a little auxin-infused agar block.
Exactly.
Clever.
What's
So then what did they do with that?
They took another oat seedling that had also had its tip removed,
Okay.
and they put this agar block on one side of the cut tip.
Uh-huh.
Now, these seedlings were kept in the dark the whole time.
Oh, interesting. So what do you think happened?
Well, if auxin is involved in phototropism,
Right.
maybe the seedling grew towards the side with the auxin block,
You got it.
even though there was no light.
Exactly. The seedling curved towards the side with the auxin, proving that this hormone is like the key player in directing plant growth toward light.
Wow, that's such a cool experiment.
Isn't it? It's amazing how scientists can unravel these mysteries.
It is. And speaking of mysteries,
Yeah.
let's talk about how plants defend themselves.
They might seem passive, but they've actually evolved some incredible strategies to protect themselves from things that want to eat them.
Oh, yeah, they have all sorts of tricks up their sleeves.
So it's like a silent battle going on in the plant world.
That's a great way to put it.
What kind of defenses are we talking about?
Well, we've already touched on one dramatic example, those carnivorous plants.
Right.
They take defense to a whole new level.
Yeah, they actually eat their attackers.
Exactly. But what about plants that don't have these dramatic defenses? How do they protect themselves?
Good question. I'm curious too.
Well, many plants produce these chemicals called secondary metabolites.
Okay.
And these chemicals can have all kinds of effects on herbivores.
The animals that want to eat them.
Exactly. Some make the plants taste bitter or unpleasant.
Oh, right. Like how some things taste really gross to us.
Exactly. And others can actually interfere with digestion or even be toxic.
So it's like chemical warfare, but in the plant world.
I like that. It's a great analogy.
It's amazing how they can fight back with chemistry.
It's a great example of coevolution.
What's that?
It's this ongoing arms race between plants and the animals that want to eat them.
So they're constantly trying to outsmart each other.
Exactly. Plants evolve defenses, and then herbivores evolve ways to overcome those defenses.
It's a never-ending battle.
It is a constant dance of survival.
I never realized how dynamic the plant world really is.
Me neither. It's so fascinating.
Now, remember those plant hormones we discussed earlier?
Yeah.
Well, scientists have learned how to manipulate those hormones for various commercial applications.
Right. We touched on that briefly.
Yeah, it sounds like we're learning to speak the plant's language.
In a way, yeah. We can give them instructions.
Tell me more about these applications.
Okay, well, one interesting one is the use of these synthetic growth regulators to stimulate root growth in cuttings.
Uh-huh.
This is common practice in plant propagation.
Right.
It allows us to multiply desirable plant varieties really quickly.
So instead of relying on seeds, you can take a cutting from a plant and use these hormones to encourage root development.
Exactly. It's like we're giving them a little boost.
That's so cool. It must be a game changer for nurseries.
Oh, it definitely is. And for anyone who likes propagating plants.
Makes sense. Another application that comes to mind is using ethylene to ripen fruit.
Yes. Ethylene-like regulators are used to accelerate ripening in fruits like bananas and tomatoes.
Right. That's really helpful for large-scale commercial operations.
Absolutely. Where timing is crucial.
It allows them to control the ripening process and get produce to market at its peak.
Exactly.
What a clever use of our knowledge about plant hormones. But what about the consumer?
Yeah.
Are there any concerns about using these synthetic hormones in our food?
That's a valid question. It's important to remember that regulatory agencies like the EPA here in the U.S., they rigorously evaluate the safety of these substances before they're approved for commercial use.
So there's a lot of testing involved.
Definitely. But transparency and consumer awareness are still crucial. People should have all the information they need to make informed choices about the food they eat.
Absolutely. So we've explored how plants grow, defend themselves, and respond to their environment.
Right.
And we've even seen how scientists are using this knowledge for practical applications.
Yeah, it's been a really cool journey so far.
It has. Now, I remember reading about this fascinating concept called oligosaccharins.
Oh, yeah. Oligosaccharins are a relatively recent discovery in plant science.
What are they exactly?
They're a type of plant hormone.
Okay.
And what's really interesting is that they act as growth promoters, but with a twist. They stimulate plants to produce antibiotics.
Antibiotics.
Yeah.
So they help plants fight off infections.
Exactly. It's like they're boosting the plant's immune system.
That's incredible. When does this happen?
It's triggered when the plant is attacked by fungi or bacteria.
So it's like a defense mechanism.
Precisely. And by studying oligosaccharins, scientists might be able to develop new strategies for disease control in agriculture.
Oh, that would be amazing.
It could potentially reduce our reliance on chemical pesticides.
That would be a huge win for the environment.
Absolutely. It just shows how interconnected plant science, agriculture, and the environment really are.
It's all about finding more sustainable solutions.
Exactly.
I feel like I've gained a whole new appreciation for the power and complexity of plants.
Me too. They're truly remarkable organisms.
They are. And there's still so much more to learn.
I know, right? It's exciting to think about what other discoveries await us as we continue exploring the plant kingdom.
You know, it's amazing to think about all the things that we've already uncovered.
And right?
About these incredible organisms.
It's like a whole hidden world.
It is. And we're not even done yet.
Not even close.
Remember those commercial applications of plant hormones we were just talking about?
Uh-huh.
I'd love to dive a little deeper into that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Like, how exactly is this knowledge being used in agriculture and horticulture?
So basically, scientists are manipulating plant hormones to kind of control their growth and development.
Right. And can you give me some specific examples of that?
Yeah, sure. So one fascinating example is they use auxin, which is a growth regulator, to stimulate rooting in cuttings.
Right.
And this is actually a really common practice in plant propagation.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit before.
Yeah, and it basically allows for the rapid multiplication of, desirable plant varieties.
So instead of waiting for seeds, you can just take a cutting from a plant.
Exactly.
And use these hormones to encourage root development.
Exactly. It's like you're fast-forwarding the natural process.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it. It must be a total game changer for nurseries.
Oh, it absolutely is. And for anyone who likes propagating plants at home.
Right. Now, another application that comes to mind is using ethylene to ripen fruit.
Yes. So ethylene-like regulators are used to speed up the ripening process, especially in fruits like bananas and tomatoes.
And why is that so helpful?
Well, it's especially useful for those large-scale commercial operations,
Right.
where timing is really crucial.
Yeah, because they need to get all that produce to market.
Exactly, at just the right time.
It allows them to have more control over the whole ripening process
Right.
and ensure that everything's, perfectly ripe when it hits the shelves.
Precisely.
It's such a clever use of what we know about plant hormones.
It really is.
But what about the consumer,
Yeah, what about us?
right? Are there any concerns about using these synthetic hormones in the food that we eat?
That's a great question. And, it's a valid concern.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember that we have regulatory agencies like the EPA here in the United States,
Right.
and they have to rigorously evaluate the safety of all of these substances before they're approved for commercial use.
So they go through a lot of testing.
Oh, tons of testing.
Okay, good.
But I do think that transparency and consumer awareness are still super important. People should have access to all the information so they can make their own informed choices
Absolutely.
about the food they eat.
Well, this has been an amazing deep dive.
It has.
I mean, we've explored so much today.
We really have.
Like how plants grow, how they defend themselves,
Yeah.
how they respond to their environment, and even how scientists are using all this knowledge
Right.
for really practical applications.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It is. This whole deep dive has really opened my eyes to the intricate world of plant biology.
Me too.
It's fascinating to think that these seemingly simple organisms have evolved
Yeah.
such complex strategies for survival.
That's mind-blowing.
It is. And that we can learn so much from them.
Absolutely.
I'm so glad we got to explore all this together.
Me too. It's been a really fun journey.
It has. And who knows what other breakthroughs are waiting for us
I know, right?
as we continue to explore the amazing world of plants.
I can't wait to find out.
Thanks for joining us, everyone, on this deep dive into the fascinating world of plants.
Thanks for listening.
We encourage you to keep exploring, keep learning, and keep marveling at the wonders of nature.